I think the how is in two ways. One is, I think, right, reaching out with it's actually interesting that Anne is on the call today. Sheer coincidence. I just had a long discussion since morning, and I've been fighting in another forum of IUCN, where I'm also a member for the CEC, the Commission for Education and Communication. The problem is in communicating with our young people who are there, right? There are only two methods that are being done right now. One is trying to teach them in class, where the faculty themselves are not well equipped. I think one of the great things in this book is they do give use cases, which is very, very important to say, yes, it has happened. Yes, it has been solved. And there are solutions if you explore. That is one of the key things which very few places are really available, and faculty are able to do it. So how are we going to make that happen is make sure that these things are taught in class as one part of how you can make it, and use them as groups that can really work on it. The second area that we really need to focus on, which is over the last 7 years that I have been seeing various projects across India, any major project, I mean, I don't have to name a particular project, whether it's UNESCO, whether it's World Bank, whether it's any Indian funding or a CSR that really works on, it has a very, very poor IEC strategy. The IEC is extremely weak. And many a times IEC is either used to produce a ton of pamphlets that are just going to be distributed, which nobody read. In the end, it becomes potlam paper for everybody to eat. But it never really gets the message out beyond that. You know, community radios are not utilized. Radio spaces are not where, for example, Raj comes and talks and says, we've done it. It's possible. It's not, you know, something that's a myth. So really revamping the way IEC is thought about in many of these projects which are coming up right now, irrespective of the project. It can be a small construction project. It can be a major project. But how do we make sure people understand? Like you kept saying, right? Yesterday we said EV is great, but do you understand how much it takes, how much water it consumes to produce a chip? You know, very few people even understand that water is consumed like that, right? Unless you get a controversy on Coca-Cola, nobody knows Coke uses water. So there is a lot of ignorance. And the third and the most important why it has not happened and how we need to bring that change is definitely leverage technology. Second, so my 3 points would be: one, to see that faculty use cases in their classes as they teach every single thing which is required in sustainable teaching for all of them, or sustainability teaching for all of them. Second, revamp the IEC strategy that is really going forward and how we need to make that happen to all of these kids. And third most important thing, use all the technology tools available today. Today, kids learn much more. You know, I can tell you 2006, we did a project in Singapore for students, and we found that students learn better on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram together in classes than actually traditional classrooms. So these are something, I mean, it's still a case study available for people, but how are faculty really bringing that change is where we have those challenges. So these three things I think are very important of how we can make sure that these things will be addressed is my 2 cents. 10 to 15% budget set aside for IEC, which is compulsory, because that is how you measure impact, right? If it's a CSR initiative, if they're giving you CSR funds, they want to know how you've impacted people. So you will see the CSR messaging is, we have reached 1 million people. Whether I've created 1 million idiots is not the point. I have reached 1 million people is my IEC strategy. But I have empowered 1 million people, and we have brought this transformational change is not happening in the IEC part. And they use medium, which is very wrong many of the times. You can't say that I'm going to publish it in national newspapers, in English daily newspapers, for a project that was done in a village or in rural India or in rural Karnataka, who will never read an English newspaper. Yeah. I think now I'm realizing come on, I'm only 2 years in the government. I'm still trying to get the hang of how these things work. But what I'm encouraged by a lot of people that I have been speaking to from the time we've gone with the diploma change, right? I mean, just to give you a fact right now, as of yesterday, when we looked at our numbers, for the first time in the history of Karnataka, we have a 97% admission in all polytechnics, in government polytechnics, in government institutions. 97% will be our admission rate. Good. So we'll have literally no seats available anymore in the next couple of weeks, right? That's a marked difference of what we've done in terms of trying to really bring people. And 85% of all our polytechnics are outside cities. They're all in rural Karnataka, which is there, right? So what I'm also trying to do as I'm talking sustainability, I mean, you remember how many times Jaffar kept asking me, "Yakri nu car togolala, why can't you just," I kept telling, no, I still like to go on. I know it's difficult and painful, but if I believe and if I'm going to preach sustainability to other people, I rather behave sustainable myself. So which is why I said I definitely use public transport. I'm also doing now to a large extent is giving a small bite for all these MLAs and MLCs to start talking about it. So just last month, I started writing a few bites and I'm telling each of these people to say, if you want to do something for your village, can you make this one small thing, which will be your contribution to your village, and see how you can do that. So I'm kind of writing small notes and telling them. So at least now they're getting pepped up to even think about it. But these are largely MLCs and MLAs who come from the graduate constituencies or from those, because they have a huge power that they can just say something and make that change happen at their village level, at their panchayat level, right? And slowly it will percolate over the next 5 years. Even if out of the 16 people I've identified, even 2 succeed, I think we would have got about 500 villages touched in Karnataka. Yeah. We used a 4-pronged strategy in that. So one is we hit it from the top. We said, if these guys don't get it done, adverse actions will be taken. I mean, in government, you know, it's lip service, but we still made the minister himself say that, look, we will take action if we don't see changes on the ground. Mm-hmm. Second, when we really did the revamp of our curriculum and trying to talk to them, I didn't speak or the task force didn't speak. We got alumni to come and speak to all their own people saying that how rubbish you taught us all these last 4 years. So then they started waking up to say, oh, listen, we were doing this, and my own alumni whom I taught 2 years ago is coming back and telling me what all you taught is of no use to me today in my space. So it's a wake-up call for them. So then we told them that, look, now we have told you the problem. Now here is a solution that what we want to give you. Try it out. Right? We're not saying we'll transform you tomorrow morning. We'll take another thing, but let's get on the journey of transformation. And the minister backed us, and we had huge opposition when we removed some of these things from these places. It went into the assembly. The minister stood by us and said, no, we are doing it for the best of Karnataka students, and this has to be done. It cannot, there's no 2 questions about it, and it will be done. And then we went in, I did about 5 presentations to different groups in the MLA and the MLC people, and we told them what we are doing and why we are doing this change. We got industry people also involved. They were also very happy of what we are saying. So first, we got a diktat from the top to say, yes, this is going to be done. Like it or not, we don't care, but it will be done. Second, we told them where the problem is and told them this is the problem, what you're going to do, and this is what you'll be creating. And tomorrow, nobody will respect you as faculty if you don't do it. Third, the problem, we told them the solution is this, which is a new curriculum that we're doing and then getting. The fourth was the biggest problem we had. Internally, we had to really kickstart some of the people to wake up. So what the commissioner did was, he said, each districts are distributed by the department, including the director of DTE. We're all created into task force. The commissioner was really aggressive on this. And he said, I want a daily on message on saying, what are the institutions and what is the admission rate happening? I want to see it on my WhatsApp every day. If I don't see it one day, the team will get into suspension mode. So he pushed it from his point of view, saying that I want. So everybody who were armchair administrators, you know, I'm administration, I'm not responsible. He said, if that guy doesn't bring you admission, you have no money to pay a salary. So you better well go outside and get those students admitted. Otherwise, there's no money to pay your salary also. Get out from here. So he moved everybody out and go and see the reality. So when a faculty sends you a problem, you will then be in a better position to appreciate. So these were the 4 key things we made sure that we had to push. And in a government system, you know how challenging these are. And it took us 12 months to achieve each of these things. And finally, we did the messaging when we now, for the first time, have branded government polytechnics. So government polytechnics have a brand, have a prospectus, which is colorful and attractive, have videos, have cases we are saying why, have alumni talking and telling people how it is. And we are now running regular radio programs, whether it's Karnataka or even Western Ghats is the same problem we have, and it's critical. When we started doing work, I mean, they said, let's create a vision group. And I said, okay, what's the use of it? We'll again publish another report. And sorry, I'm not trying to be critical. The reports are important. Research is important on that. But at the end of the day, how many of these reports really translate to action? I can tell you a single digit percentage which gets into real action. It's just meant to appease a few people for which they've done the report. So I said, if you want to do the report, then I don't want to waste my time. I can give you the text if you want. You can just plagiarize it and do what you want. Your report is published in 1 month. If that is what is the end objective you want to achieve. But if you want to bring in change, there is a plethora of areas that you have to bring change in. One of the things that we have realized also during our whole change process that we have been working on in these areas was a mindset that has been put into a lot of these people, especially young people. Why is that happened? Okay, there's a fundamental flaw in our education system. Okay. But I mean, we've been fighting that. I'm not saying we're not fighting it. We are fighting it. That's why we're able to revamp the whole curriculum as well. The fundamental flaw is the way the curriculum is designed is city-centric, right? So for example, when I was talking to one of the students who was in a remote area in Gadag, the one question is, sir, traffic jam andre yen sir? Nanu Kisan jam kelidini sir, illa ಒಂದು packet ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಸಿಗುತ್ತೆ sir, ₹5 ಒಂದು packet. Traffic jam andre ಏನು sir? ಅದು ಒಂಥರ jam ಅಂತ. See, the problem is we are trying to inculcate an urban knowledge system into a rural system and say this is education, which is ridiculous. So what that has actually made all these people say is, I can only be prosperous if I come to Bangalore. But if I am there in my village, I cannot be prosperous. Right? So this is the kind of messaging that has gone into most of these kids. So over the last 6 months, continuously we have been focusing on saying that if you're a diploma engineer, your responsibility is solve the problem of your district, not Bangalore's problem. Bangalore has created its own problem. Ask its people who are studying here to solve its problem, but you focus on a district problem. So now we are laying conditions in saying, if you're an institute wanting funding from the government for your district, please tell us what you have done for your district. So one of the questions I've been asking most of these people is, let's say, how many toilets were constructed in your district? Can you give me that number? You have 2,800 civil engineers whom you are training. How many of these people were involved in designing these toilets? For you, it looks toilets, right? But doesn't that include construction? Doesn't that include plumbing? Doesn't that include water? Doesn't that include sanitation? Doesn't that include waste management? It has everything. So how many of these students have gone there? Okay, you take a 10% of the toilet or whatever you want to take on that. Anyway, they were going to get that money. So how have you taken these students to do that? All of a sudden, every student started asking us, sir, now madboda? Oh, keli first. So they went to the Tehsildar and asked him. He said, oh, wonderful. If you are going to do it, here, take it. So the problem is the system itself that is training these minds are come to Bangalore if you want to be successful. If you don't come to Bangalore, your career is dead.